Good morning, everybody. Little pop-up Stampin' on a Friday. Hi, Christina. I drew the winner last night for the sprinkles embellishments, and I did get an email from her. Hi, Sandy. Oh, good morning from California. Wish I was in California right now. Stamping. That'll be quite fun. So anyway, last night when I drew the winner, I did get her to contact me, so we're going to get her prize sent out to her. But I thought we could do something a little fun, and I was kind of working on something last night, so I'll show you guys what I got started on. And I thought this would be really fun to make into like a Valentine's card or really a thinking of you or any kind of a card. But if I know a lot of you guys are looking for Valentine's ideas. So this is one. This is not completely finished yet, so that's why I have them all just kind of set out strategically. Good morning, Stacy. Hi, Angel from Nevada. Ooh, fabulous. Las Vegas, Nevada, or just Nevada? I just got the Fortunate to Know You stamp set yesterday from my last club date that we did. And I got this actually for a very dear friend of mine, and I'm going to send her a card really soon. So, Angie, if you're watching, don't pay attention. Hi, Robin. Thanks for sharing, Eileen. I really appreciate all the likes and the shares and everything. Thank you guys so much for doing that. That really helps me to be high up on your feed. So if you share something and then if somebody else shares it, it really keeps me onto the top of the feed. Otherwise, Facebook, you know, changes their stuff around a lot of times where you can't really follow what it is that they're doing. So this makes it a little bit easier for you to know when I go live, even though you may have subscribed. So thank you for all the shares. Winnemucca, Nevada. I'm going to bet that's in the north, probably. Thank you for sharing, Donna. I really appreciate that. Good morning, Kelly. Thanks for joining. So I'm going to show you guys a couple different ways that you could do this card. But this will be a short one today. It won't be quite as long as the usual. As always, I'll tell you, my name is Rachel. If you haven't watched before, thanks for joining. I am Rach from Rachthestamper.com, and we try to make a lot of quick videos. A lot of times on Wednesdays, I'll do requests and see what you guys like to do. So this one I just came on since I happen to be off today. I'm taking my son ice skating for school later, so I thought I'd hop on here and do one. But I also have a couple other stamp sets to share. Hand-lettered alphabet. I'll be using some stuff with this soon. And the amazing congratulations. This is actually a 3-set stamp. So this will be really fun to use, and it's got a lot of great sentiments that you can add. And then the beautiful day, which I know a lot of people have asked for brush show cards, so I'm going to work on a brush show card, and maybe we can do that next Wednesday. If you're new, we do live stamping every Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time right here in Rach the Stamper on my Facebook page. So we're going to do a brush show card with something, one of these. And then I also got this Hostess set, Yay You, which is so fun. This is in the Spring Occasions catalog. It's in the back in case you missed it. You can get this by having a qualifying order if you're a hostess, or if you have a qualifying order just yourself. And hi, Ginger. Good morning. Hi, Oxy. Judy. Nice to see you guys. Happy Friday. And then I finally got the Amazing You from Celebration that actually coordinates with the die. So we're going to I'm going to work on a bunch of cards and we'll see what we get done for next week. And then I did also get the Cozy Cottage, but it accidentally got given to somebody else. So I just have to wait for that to come back. So I can't wait to use that with the Stampin' Blends. That'll be a lot of fun. Good morning, Judy. Thank you guys for sharing. Thanks for all the shares. I really appreciate it. So onto this card that we're going to make today. So again, this is the Fortunate to Know You stamp set. I did get it in Clearmount. That's why I get most of mine in Clearmount, because they're much easier to store versus the wood mount. And then what I do is I have, I got this container at IKEA, and I keep all my clear blocks in it. And then I'll keep my, I have actually 1.5 of these. When I first started stamping, my good stamping buddy and I, Rhonda, decided to split one because we figured we didn't need a whole sheet silicone mat. Well, needless to say, I've since bought a whole. So I have a whole and a half. And then I have just like a little cloth to keep these cleaned off with. So I kind of keep it all together. That way I have all my blocks right next to me. And then I can grab whatever block I need, and if there's like some dirt or something on it, you can just wipe it off with one of these. It's like one of those glass cleaner things. But I keep these in here in case I get ink on them, so I don't accidentally clean glasses with them. That would be a travesty. So I have all my clear blocks right next to me where I stamp, and that's generally why I stick with the Clearmount. Clearmount are easier to store for me. Hi, Lori. Thanks for joining. And you can get more that way. Okay, so anyway, what we're going to do today, I have two different cards to show you. So I have Tempting Turquoise and Melon Mambo. And here's one other tip. Now this tip, you would have to wait for your card to dry a little bit, but this is another tip that you could do with this. You could also do this with Versamark. And what you're going to do is, if you do it, you're just going to make like a watermark on your stamp. The only thing is you're going to want to make sure that you really let it dry, or hit it with your heat tool just to dry it a little bit. Or if you want to get a little bit extra crazy, you could stamp it in your Versamark and then put some clear embossing powder, heat set it, and then these would be like shiny in the background. So that's another fun idea that you can do as well. So any colors would work. I just happened to grab these because I had a lot of Melon Mambo and a lot of Tempting Turquoise. But if you wanted to do these, I believe Chinese New Year is coming up. That is February 16th, and red is like an awesome color for Chinese New Year. So if you wanted to do this, you could do real red and then real red paper, or you could do your Versamark ink if you wanted to make someone a happy Chinese New Year card. I'm sure they would absolutely love that. But what you're going to do is, we're going to just go with these two since we have them out, and I'm going to show you guys what I did with this. I did not actually adhere these. I only put the base down because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with them yet. So what I did was I just stamped tone on tone. I stamped the fortune cookies and then the chopsticks. So this comes with the fortune cookies, the chopsticks, and then the takeout container. And if you didn't want the heart on it, if you wanted to make it different, you could mask off the heart and then just have the container, and then you could write something on there if you wanted to. So definitely a lot of use that you could get out of this. So I just stamped tone on tone, and I originally was going to just stamp it directly onto the card base, but then I thought it would make it a little more fun to have a layer. So I have two layers here, okay? So let me just show you. Let me get all this stuff out of the way real quick so I don't make a mess. So what I have is, I have a base layer, and you could do these either way. So this is 5.5 by 8.5. You score at 4 1/4. So you have your regular card base. Or if you wanted to, you could do your lengthwise card, which would be 4 1/4 by 11, and then you're going to score at 5.5. Same thing again, just fold it in half. So you could do them either way, lengthwise, or so we say hot dog or hamburger. I don't know. That's how we do it in card class. Which card do you want, hot dog or hamburger? And then I just have a base card. Okay, so I'm going to do one of each and show you what it would look like with the Versamark. So these are 4 by 5 1/4. So let me just move these out of the way. And I'm going to move my trimmer as well because I don't need that. Okay, so we're going to put our panel down, okay, for both of these. I'm going to do the Versamark version first just so you can see it, and again, because it is going to take a little bit longer to dry. So I'm going to do the Versamark with the fortune cookie, and then I will do the takeout container with the Tempting Turquoise. And I just have to clean this off because I was stamping downstairs last night and I was bad. I didn't clean my stamp after I finished with it. So just give me one sec just to wipe this clean. I just cleaned off my my Stampin' scrub because it was absolutely filthy. It was so dirty that when I was cleaning it, it was actually dirtier than it was when it started. So I'm going to do the fortune cookie with Versamark. Okay, so what we're going to do is just stamp or ink up our, and I know this is a super dirty pad. It does not make a difference. It'll still show up clear. So if you ever have ruined one of your Versamark pads, don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. So I'm just going to stamp this kind of in a random pattern. And then we'll do it with the turquoise so you can see what the difference looks like. And I do kind of want to move these around. Like these two are identical, which kind of annoys me a little bit, but that's okay. So you kind of want to move it so they're all facing in different directions. When I did, just as a side note, when I did these cards yesterday, what I did, if you notice they line up, I stamped the two panels next to each other. So I put them together like this and stamped them, and I kind of had them overlap, so you kind of get two birds with one stone. So if you're doing something in the same ink, so for example, I'll show you. What you'll do is you'll just line them up just like this, and then you can stamp them. That way you get edges on both, and then when you pull them apart, it looks, you know, the cookie is on both. So you can kind of get more stamping for your money in less time, if that makes sense. So we'll just put, oh, that one's a little bit light. We'll put a little bit, just a couple edges on here. All right, so this is with the Versamark. Okay, so we're just gonna let that sit there and dry. And then what I'm gonna do, even though this is a cookie, I'm gonna go ahead and put the takeout container on. And this is a rather large stamp, but if you position it correctly, you can still get it on the D block. So let me just wipe this one off just quickly as well, because it's a bad stamper. I didn't clean my stamps yesterday. So now I'm going to take the Tempting Turquoise, okay? And you'll see that it really does look virtually the same, just that this is going to take more drying time because it's a Versamark. So again, if you don't have the pad color to the paper, or if you're just trying to get a bunch of stuff done in a hurry, or if you wanted to get different colors in a hurry, I mean, at this point, truly, you could just bring in a scrap piece of Melon Mambo. You could put them next to each other if you wanted to make two, and you could stamp them both in Versamark. That way you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So we're going to ink up our takeout container. And we'll just stamp this. And I'll put another one over here. These are kind of a little bit more tricky. Sometimes when you do these, you probably would want to, I'm going to flip this over actually. You would want to start more in the center with your bigger container. That way you can kind of fill in more of the space, if that makes sense. You can flip them upside down, because now at this point I missed the middle. So I'm just going to flip it over. That's why I did that. And let's see, we'll put another one kind of cockeyed here. Or you could also do where you just did one takeout container, and you could fill in cookies, and you could fill in the chopsticks if you wanted to. Just depends on how busy you want it, how full you want it. Okay, so we're going to leave that be. So now you have two that we've done, okay? And Tempting Turquoise, and then this is in Versamark. So really just depends on how you want it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my sponge dauber, and I did this yesterday downstairs. Again, I was stamping downstairs, which I don't only have whatever I take with me. And you could do one of two things. So what you could do is you could take your paper and you could kind of just drag the edge back and forth, and it'll give you a line. And what this really does is it just kind of makes your card look way more finished without doing a lot of it, and it gives you an edge to your stamp down here. So you could either do that by rubbing your card kind of back and forth in your ink. You'll just get a little line on the edge. We'll do that for this one, since this is with the Versamark. And this is pretty much dry at this point. It's not really... Now, if you probably put some embossing powder on it, yes, it would stay wet. But so we have that one. Or what you could do is you could take your sponge dauber if you want it to be a little bit darker, and you could just run that along the edge. I don't know what I did with this. This has some glitter in it. I'm going to have like an extra sparkly spot on my Tempting Turquoise. And then just sponge the edge. It really just gives more of a pop to the whole layer. Okay, so we'll just go around. Oops, got a little crazy on that one. And the cool part about the way that I did this card was it really makes whatever it is that you're going to put on it pop, because you kind of have all this tone on tone. So we're going to go ahead and put these onto our base cards here. So we'll put this one on. I'm going to put this one on here because it's more of a vertical. And then this one can kind of go either way. So I'm going to just put some snail adhesive. I'm sorry, fast fuse. I haven't used snail lately. I've been on a fast fuse kick. So we're just going to put some fast fuse on. Just like that. And if you can see, so you can see there's a line. So it really makes the card, I put that on a teeny bit crooked. It really makes the card very distinct, if you can tell. So you can see that you have more than one layer. But if you don't want to do more than one layer, you could just stamp directly onto your card base if you're trying to save cardstock. However, just making this with the second layer, even though it's really tone on tone, it's a very simple card, it really makes you look like you put a lot more effort into the card than you really necessarily had to. So there is our, so this is our Tempting Turquoise version. And then this is our Versamark version. Okay, so there's both of those. Super simple, easy to do, okay? Then what we're going to do is, and I did some of this yesterday, so I'm going to show you a few things that I did. I have my fortune cookie, and of course I did not take my crumb cake marker downstairs, so I'm going to show you how I colored that in. Did I have crumb cake, I believe? Yeah. Yeah, crumb cake. So I have my Stampin' Blends. I colored this in with the Stampin' Blends. What I used I used the smoky slate, the light and the dark marker, just to go around all the edges on this. And then I kind of used my blender pen if I made it a little too dark, just to lighten it up. Again, if you wanted to be more specific, you could certainly just do the shadows. And then what I did was I have my cherry cobbler, the light and the dark, which the dark can be pretty dark. So what I generally do is I start with my dark Calypso Coral marker. So I colored the whole heart in, and then I went with the light cherry cobbler and I went around the side, and then I added a little bit darker in spots in just the corners. I picked 2 spots to make a little bit darker, and then I took my white marker, or I should say my color lifter, and I kind of just erased a little spot there. So I'm not sure if you can see that specifically, but it did turn out, it did turn out pretty 3-dimensional. And then the other thing I did, so when you stamp this, it has white back here, but I kind of wanted it to stick out, so I just trimmed it out. It was really easy. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that as well. And let me see, where's my other one here? This is the other one I did. Now this one I made a little bit lighter altogether. So this one I only used the Calypso Coral markers, and then I used the light cherry cobbler just in the corner, and I actually left the white spot so that would look a little bit more 3D. But again, I just trimmed this out. It was very easy to trim, and I'm going to show you one other thing that's a really good idea to do. So let me really quickly, I'm going to stamp the takeout container. And when you're using your Stampin' blends, you want to make sure that you use Memento ink so it doesn't smudge. If you use the archival ink, it will smudge. And if you, honestly, even if you really use, what the heck is the other stuff called? I stopped using it a while ago because it was getting too smudgy. Not the Memento, whatever the other black ink is. I can't think of it at the moment because I buried it underneath of something. It does make it smudge. So I would use Memento. I found the best luck in that. So I'm going to stamp this. And then I'm going to give it a minute to dry. Okay. All right, so I'm going to just let this sit here for a second, and I'm going to color in this fortune cookie that I trimmed out, okay? So I'm going to do this with the light and the dark crumb cake, and then I'm also going to keep my, you could do this too with the bronze and the ivory. That would look really pretty as well. I'm going to keep the bronze handy just in case I want a little bit, stays on. Thank you, Deborah, I appreciate that. I'm going to keep this in case I want a little bit of a darker spot. So I'm going to go over the whole thing first with my light crumb cake. And yesterday when I was fooling with this, it wasn't exactly dry. So I do have kind of a little bit of smudgy, inky spot in here. But so now I have my dark crumb cake. And I'm going to just take this around the edge. Just like that. And then I'm going to take my bronze. And I'm going to use the fine tip of the bronze. And I know I have those uncovered, but I'm going to be working on this pretty quickly. So that's the only reason why. Otherwise, you definitely want to cover up your markers or else they're going to dry out. Especially since these are alcohol. So now what I'm doing is just dragging the bronze out a little bit, just like that, and then I'm going to go around and again do the light. You kind of want to work on small sections because this does dry quickly, which then unfortunately makes it a little bit more difficult to blend. So try to work on smaller sections. And I'm just going to add in the shading here, kind of a little bit around the side. Okay, so that was the dark. And, oops, I got the wrong caps on, and this is the bronze. Okay, so let me put the right caps on these so I don't get mixed up. I'm going to go back in just with the light, just a little bit, and just blend this out. And honestly, with these markers, it really is the more practice that you have, the better. Because I'm not the most terrific person at blending things, in my opinion, but you guys will probably be like, wow. And from here, when I look at it on camera, it does look like a real cookie. So it is pretty cool. But just practice. One other tip I have, though. When you're finished with this, no matter what size, so when I did this, I went with the smoky slate, take the edge and outline it because it really colors in the edge and it helps to make them look real so it doesn't just look like pieces of paper sticking to something. So you could take your dark marker, your dark crumb cake, and just go around the edge just to make sure whatever white you trimmed has some color on it. And it kind of really fills in that cookie to make it look more three-dimensional. It does look like a great cookie, doesn't it? Okay, so then what I did was I cut a slit here. So if you can see where this is, I cut a slit. That way I can just slide my cookie thing. And you could have this face whatever way you want. You know, if you want your thing to stick out this way, it doesn't make a difference. But this, that way you can just put a little bit of like a mini glue dot or something and stick it there. And that'll be really cool. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is dry, but I'm going to just hit this just for a quick minute with the heat tool just to make sure. Just because I don't want it to smudge. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys really quickly how to color this in and trim it out, and then we'll put our card together. So what I did was I have my light and dark smoky slate, and then I have my, I don't want to call this a blender pen, color lifter. I love blender pens, that's probably why. And then I'm going to do my heart, okay? So I'm going to do the heart first, just to start. So I'm going to start all over with the light Calypso Coral. And again, I do try to stay, actually this is the dark Calypso Coral, I fibbed. I do try to stay away a little bit away from the black if I can help it, because sometimes I think I've had a little more coffee than I should have and it doesn't really stay in the lines. All right, so now I have my light Cherry Cobbler. I was trying to think. I was almost going to say Riding Hood Red, and I know that's been gone for some time. And then I'm going to take just the point tip of my dark marker and just bring it in just a little and just kind of over here. And then I'm going to go back in with my dark Calypso Coral and just kind of drag the color out a little bit. And that's really what gives it that depth when you do it. I'm going to take my color lifter brush tip, because I think it makes it a little softer, and just go a little bit here just to make a little bit of white, kind of like that little shine spot that you get on things. And then one more time I'm just going to take my dark tip here of the dark Cherry Cobbler and just make this just a little bit more darker, so it's got a little bit more depth to it. Now very carefully I'm going to go with my light Smoky Slate, and I'm going to trace the outside of the heart. And I say very carefully because yesterday I did one that I didn't really like very much. But I think a lot of times when we color stuff like this, that we're much more critical of it than anyone else that's watching would be. Or that's getting the card even. Okay, so that's going to just give a little bit more depth, if you can see, to your heart. Okay, so now we're going to go in with our light and then our dark. So I'm going to keep the hard tip open-ish. And I'm going to go around with the light Smoky Slate all around the edge. You kind of do it however much you want it to be. Just depends on what you want. Like right now, I'm probably trying to go a little faster than I should. So I'm getting a little bit thicker lines than I ideally would like. And you don't even have to really do all these. I just kind of think it makes it look much more three-dimensional if you go at least a little bit on the lines. Okay, so now that I did that, I'm going to go back in just a little bit. And the reason I didn't do these kind of little bits at a time is because it's really only the edging. So it's really just giving shadowing. If I was doing something where I was much more concerned with the color, I probably would have done them in pieces. But this is kind of more just a shadowing versus a coloring. And again, when you're using these stamping blends, I did not have the blendabilities. So this whole alcohol marker thing is very, very new to me. So I kind of just work with it as I see fit. And then I kind of change it. Hey, Rhonda, thanks for joining. So I'm going to just go back and just kind of blend the corners just a little. Just to bring it out just a slight bit. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dark Smoky Slate and I'm going to go over the handle here. And I did this 2 times just to make it a little bit darker. Another thing you could do if you wanted to, if you have a Versamark pen, you could go in with this and you could do it with the silver embossing powder. That way you could have a shiny handle, so that'd be pretty cool. All right, so there you have your takeout box, and it does look pretty three-dimensional. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just trim this out. Save some unique fortunes. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Rhonda, I could totally see you doing that. Rhonda is Rhonda is the reason that I am a stamper, you guys, just so you know. I've worked with Rhonda for many, many years, and when I first started working for my company, she invited me to do a stamping party with her, and I was like, stamps? What the heck? I thought she meant like postal stamps. And so I went to a party, and they did, we actually used to have them at work in the lunchroom. And I went to a party, and they did heat embossing, and that was it. I was hooked. So Rhonda is my reason that I stamp, and I am very grateful for our friendship, our stamping friendship, and the fact that I have something fun to do and share with you guys. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead here and trim just this edge, and I'm going to show you how I cut the inside out. Okay, so that's trimmed. So you can see you still have this white spot. You could leave it if you want, and honestly, it's really not that difficult to trim it out. So you're going to just trim along the edge. This is what I did that was the easiest. Trim along the edge here, and trim right along the top. Okay, and the only thing you have to do is just take your time. So now you got your flap here. So now all you're going to do is trim up. And if you have these little paper snips, it's really way easier. And then trim along. And then just a tiny, just be careful at this end so you don't cut something you don't want to. A tiny curve. And that's it. Okay, so then you have your little box. So it's much easier than it looks. But again, now you have all this little white stuff. So what I did was I took my dark smoky slate, and I just took the brush tip end because it was easier, and I went along the side just like this. I got rid of anything that was showing that was white. And you could do this with your Stampin' Right markers if you wanted to, if you don't have the blends or if you weren't using the blends. So I just went all around the edge. Same thing on the top. And I even did it on the top of the handle. Like there's a little bit more of a spot here, so I just kind of filled it in a little bit. Just trace, and there you go. So now it's much darker, and it actually looks much more three-dimensional than it did with the white showing. Okay? So all ready your first, that's right, exactly, there you go. He's the one that started it. Okay, so now all we're going to do is we're just going to adhere this to our card. So I cut out a bunch of these. I have Fortunate to Know You, which I think would be great. This is also really wonderful if you have a thank you. Many, many thanks to you. This would be a great thank you card. Very simple to do. And then what you could do is you could put this on the inside. So you could put your little fortune on the front, which we'll do for this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some fine tip glue on the back of this just so I know the handle stays in place. If you wanted to, you could certainly pop it up. It really doesn't make a difference, just depending on what you want to do. So I'm going to grab my my little half sheet here of my silicone mat. Again, I do recommend you buy a whole one because you're going to need it eventually. Hi, Kathy. Thanks for joining. So I'm going to just put a little bit of glue here with my fine tip glue pen. And you could also use your, I'm going to just put this a little bit at the edge as well. And then I'm going to add some fast fuse. I'm going to try to add some fast fuse. There we go. You could also use your Tombow liquid glue as well, but I think the fine tip glue pen will get a little bit more into exactly where you want it to go. So then you just take your, put it right here, take your little takeout box and just, so now, I mean, it's perfectly glued down. There is a little teeny bit of glue, but that will dry. So you have that there. Perfectly glued down, and it looks super three-dimensional because it's tone on tone in the background, and then the top is really nicely colored. So then you could take, where did I put my cookie that I colored? Here it is. You could take your cookie, and I'm going to do mine this way. That way I have a little bit less that sticks out. So I'm going to just put a mini glue dot right in here, if I can remember where I put them. Or not. You know what? I'm not going to take a mini glue dot because I think I put them somewhere and I don't really know where they are. So I'm just going to use my fine tip glue pen while I have it out. And I'm going to just put a little dot of glue here. And I'm just going to cap this off so it doesn't dry up on me. Alright, and then I'm going to slide this right in here. Just so he stays just like that. And I'm going to show you what I did with this really quickly was, so you have your fortune cookie. So this is trimmed out. And then all you do is just follow along, just depending on how far you want to go, just follow along that black cut line. I kind of go above it. That way the cut line will hide whatever you cut. And then you can put your little fortune in there. You could even put it, if you wanted to leave it not adhered, you could glue the bottom, so you could glue this part down and maybe around here. That way if they wanted to, they could pull the fortune out. Or like with what Rhonda said, if you had a cute fortune that you wanted to put in there, you could put that in there. This would be a great card too if you knew somebody that wanted like a secret engagement card and they could put the message in there and pull it out, like, will you marry me? How fun would that be? Be a little bit of work, but it would certainly be worth it for all the accolades you would get. So I have this glued in, so now I'm going to just put this with some fast fuse. And I'm just going to be very careful with this because it's still just a little bit wet. I don't want to rip that fortune off. Oops. Okay, and then I'm going to just stick this right here on the inside. And how fun! I mean, that's so cute. Super cute. I'm so glad I got this set. It is so fun. So, and again, you could do this on any tone on tone with your many thanks. And it does have a lot of other fortunes. You're going to have an amazing birthday. Happiness is coming your way. And then the chopsticks. I did do the chopsticks on this other card. I did a little bit of fill-in space. So I did the, which way is this open? I did the cookies and the chopsticks. But you could do the cookies and the takeout container or the chopsticks or whatever. Anything that you like. So that's just a really fun card that I did today that I wanted to share with you guys. Thank you guys so much for dropping in on a random Friday. And I know you're going to borrow it, right? I know, Rhonda. You're funny. So this is just a fun card that you guys could make. And then I will work on some, just the blends. The blends really make this card pop. It's so cool. So cool with the cookie coloring and everything. Even this heart. And again, if you wanted to leave the heart off, all you would have to do is you would mask this off. So you could do this with a piece of tape. Like any kind of tape. For example, I'll just show you real quick and we'll stamp one. I can't find the end here. So if you had either a Post-it or some masking paper or some masking tape. Let me move this just a little bit. Move that off to the side just a bit. So to make sure this is covered enough that it's not going to get in the way. It is really clever, Diane. This is like, it was really kind of one of those cards that came to me just really at the spur of the moment. Where'd my paper go? And I thought, this would be super fun to make. And then I was like, well, I was off today, so why not make it today? So now all you're going to do is you're going to ink up your stamp. Okay, just like regular. And then, this is the most important part. Make sure you peel off your heart. Because I've done that before where I'm like, wait a minute. And I realized I was masking it. So then all you're going to do is stamp your image up here. Let's see if I can get it in here. Save some paper. And then you have a blank one. So then you can put whatever you want on it. Like if you wanted to put for you or something else, you know, another stamp set that you have. Also, this will be a super fun Valentine's card. I mean, there's a lot of great Valentine's stamps. So in the Teeny Tiny Wishes has a beautiful Happy Valentine's Day here. Really good one. This is, if you can see, one of the old ones I bought because I bought it in wood mount. Or Message in a Bottle. You could put I love you. And then you could add like Happy Valentine's Day as well. Or if you have the paper pumpkin kit, you could do Happy Valentine's Day, You Make Me Happy. You could have any of these things really popping out of that little, either the takeout container or out of the fortune cookie. So lots of fun stuff today that you can do. And I hope you guys got a little bit of inspiration for this. If you guys want to order any of this stuff, you can go to my online store 24/7, rachthestamper.stampinup.net. All of this is orderable. There are some great specials coming out very soon with the new celebration release that won't be until the 16th, but there's a really cool, some designer series paper. There's an embossing folder. There's a stamp set actually and an embossing folder combo, which again, Stampin' Up! Is coming out with something that is going to be carried out into the next catalog. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, if you guys need a catalog, you can send me an email. I will mail you one. You just need to make sure you send me your whole mailing address. If you would like to be part of my newsletter, send me your email and I will add you to that. I usually send one out every other week unless something earth-shattering happens. And you can always follow me here and on YouTube and on my blog at Rach the Stamper. You can pretty much find me on any platform at Rach the Stamper. But thank you guys so much for watching and for sharing and for everything else. I really, really appreciate all the shares because it helps you to see me when I'm live. So thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. Thank you guys all for watching. I loved seeing you guys today. A bonus Friday. I know, you never know, every once in a while. And now you want Chinese food, even though it's early, right? All right, guys, have an awesome weekend and take care. I'll see you soon.